Man, what an adventure it has been. Nearly a whole year before its release. I'm telling you, the internet is both a magical and scary/interesting place. Sonic the Hedgehog is a hybrid CGI live-action film based off the character and franchise published by Sega, and is directed by Jeff Fowler, written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller, and stars Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey as Sonic and Dr. Robotnik respectively. Now, ever since its first stages in production, I, alongside a lot of the Sonic community, had a very cautious to somewhat of a negative approach to what they were planning. The fact that it was going to be a live-action CGI hybrid, and also since at the time the rights to the movie were acquired by Sony Pictures. You know, the same company that made these two gems. So after the project was put in turnaround, the rights to the movie were then acquired by Paramount Pictures in 2017, and as for the next 2 years, more of the film was being shown, including production photos that, for me anyway, gave off pretty clear that this wasn't going to be the Sonic movie we most likely wanted. Because for a character like Sonic the Hedgehog, I feel as if a fully animated film that took place in the world of Sonic would have been the better approach. But of course, the biggest fault in everyone's mind was how Sonic would look in the movie, even though I tried to ignore the posts and whatnot because I thought that this film was going to be a flop. It was then in December of 2018 we finally had our first look at Sonic's design, and just looking back at these old promotional materials makes me remember wondering, what exactly was it that made the team who worked on this thought that this was acceptable? It didn't help either when later in April of 2019 they uploaded the first official trailer, and just about everything was wrong about the way they presented this film's tone. I mean, aside from Sonic, who looks like a humanoid abomination with white hands instead of gloves, as well as having teeth that could just chew my soul into pieces, barely says anything, and instead the attention was focused on the cliched military plotline, as well as Jim Carrey's portrayal as Dr. Robotnik, which many thought would be the one and only saving grace, but aside from that one shot at the end, I wasn't buying it because it just seemed like another 90s Jim Carrey performance. Also, I am never going to be able to listen to Gangsta's Paradise again in the same way. Most likely they just added it because it was a 90s classic. That's so corporately lazy. This got such a negative response by folks online that the director Jeff himself tweeted that they were actually going to go back to the drawing board and fix the movie with a new design for Sonic, but because they needed more time to work on it, they had to push the release date for another 3 months. This is what I meant by how incredible the internet can shift the course for just about anything in the world, to something as little as forcing the studio to delay a movie all because of the main character's look. It's actually quite extraordinary that they listened. So then later in November of that same year, the month in which the movie was originally going to come out, a new trailer popped up showing Sonic's brand new design, and I, alongside everyone else who saw this trailer, absolutely loved it. A lot of that credit has to be given to Tyson Hess, who was assist to help with the redesign, and was the same guy who also worked on the opening cutscene to Sonic Mania, as well as those animated shorts on the official Sonic YouTube channel, including Sonic Mania Adventures and Team Sonic Racing Overdrive. However, despite the celebration, I was still rather pessimistic, believing this film wasn't going to be that good, and so I made a vow to not go see it in theatres. But after seeing more clips and promotional material, and after hearing from folks who got to see the movie early had nothing but good things to say about it, I ultimately broke and decided to go see it since I didn't have any plans for Valentine's anyway. Also, peer pressure can be a bitch sometimes. So, after a whole year of disappointments and redemptions, what did I think of the final product? Holy crap, I enjoyed this movie a lot. It's not perfect, I'll say that, but as for a Sonic fan, this movie does justice to the character, and pretty much almost everything I dreaded has been removed for a fun and comical adventure that maybe even some non-Sonic fans can enjoy. First off, Ben Schwartz's performance as Sonic is just superb. He brings that cocky, go-free attitude that he's most famous for, but he's also good-hearted and kind of sentimental, which is pretty new for this iteration, since in the movie Sonic is forced to go to Earth to hide himself from those who want his power, and so after 10 years without socializing to anyone can get pretty lonely, which I can totally understand from his perspective. Jim Carrey's performance as Dr. Robotnik was for the most part what I expected. but I surprisingly find myself enjoying his performance a lot more than I thought I would, particularly with his antics between James Marsden's character Tom as well as his assistant Agent Stone. Not everything Jim says is comedy gold, but he is mostly very humorous, bringing back that trademark 90s portrayal that apparently a lot of people have missed. I wouldn't know, since my background of his movies during that time period is pretty limited. Speaking of James Marsden, his part in the movie as Tom Wachowski, a sheriff for Green Hills, Montana, was also more enjoyable than I thought. I haven't seen the X-Men movies yet, and unfortunately I do recall seeing Hop a long time ago, but still, the moments with him and Sonic interacting were actually not that bad or cliched. Even his wife character, played by Tika Sumpter, even though she isn't on screen that much, had some pretty charming moments too. And the scene with her sister's daughter giving Sonic's iconic shoes was delightfully heartwarming. Though this does lead into two plot points that I feel has slightly hindered the movie's performance, which is based around Tom. The first being that a subplot in this movie involves him moving to San Francisco to become a street cop, and then there's one scene with him and Sonic in a car, with Sonic acting mad about him leaving based around his understanding of the people in Green Hills. It's a plot point that I feel wasn't entirely necessary, and even then, it gets glossed over pretty quickly into a chase scene with Robotnik, which I guess is good to avoid it becoming too cliched, but still, it could have used some tweaking. The other small part is that with Tom helping Sonic to get to San Francisco to collect his rings, as well as running away from Robotnik, this puts him being wanted by the government, which you think would lead to something, but nope. That also gets sidetracked and gets resolved pretty quickly, which then again, it was stated that the government wasn't so keen on Robotnik to begin with, but still. It's another plot point which I feel could have been fleshed out more, even if it would have dragged out the overall plot, so what am I to say? There's a theme in this movie involving a bucket list that Sonic puts together, because once he collects his rings, he'll leave Earth forever. And yet there are so many things he has yet to do, which leads to a pretty fun scene with him and Tom doing various activities in a bar, and also doing a particularly familiar moment in which one of the X-Men have done before. I'm pretty sure you know which one it is. If you're a Sonic nut like me, then I'm pretty sure you recognize a lot of Easter eggs and references to the games and the franchise as a whole. From the sign labelled Hilltop Sonic is playing ping pong on, to even that goddamn Sonic meme that appears as a sketch drawing by one of the folks in Green Hills. Good lord. But the biggest surprise without a doubt is during the mid-credits. Now, since it's been a while since the film's release, I'd say it's okay to briefly go over this, but what we got, even I wasn't expecting this. Oh my god, it's Tails! He looks so good! I don't even think he was supposed to be in the movie to begin with, but they did it! With him and Sonic in a potential sequel? I surely hope so. All in all, Sonic the Hedgehog has had quite the ride since its initial review, but I am just glad it came out in this day and age, because without the internet and the fan base, even if it can seem pretty odd at times, can be so passionate about a character that they grew up with, and so, after enough criticisms and negative responses, forces the studio to delay the movie to make the audience happy. That is an accomplishment. Even if it did lead to the animation studio getting shut down, leaving hundreds of artists seeking new positions in the industry. Which is a travesty, since they did put in a lot of extra work, which I am extremely grateful for, and which is nothing but hope for these people wherever they may be right now. As for the movie itself, Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 is a delightfully enjoyable adventure that doesn't dumb itself down to be enjoyed just by kids, and clearly shows that it's made by people who grew up with the Blue Blur and treated his first theatrical release with just as much respect as they possibly could. The action sequences take a great amount of opportunities with Sonic's portrayal of super speed. The overall pacing, true to Sonic's persona, is kept relatively fast-paced with barely any dragged-out moments, and when things do slow down, it leads to some fun, goofy interactions with the human characters, although thankfully not entirely one-dimensional. Not to mention, with the amount of success and praise this movie got, it just comes to show that alongside Detective Pikachu, which I also really enjoyed when it came out last year, This could potentially become the new age of actual good video game movies, so long as they get the right kind of people to work on it who either understand or grew up with the respective franchise, but also find unique and creative ways to make it stand out as its own thing. Then I'd say the future for video game movies is looking pretty bright, the same way comic book movies have been treated for the last decade. Which is why I'm giving Sonic the Hedgehog a well-respected 4 out of 5 stars. Speaking of comic book movies, there was one in particular that I decided to rewatch recently to see if my opinions had changed, since its release back in 2013 has been all over the place, and not to mention future flicks after this that take place in the same universe would make some serious changes to where we're at right now. But more will be told about on that when the time arrives, so thank you all so much for watching for what has essentially been my delayed participation to this movie's craze, which could pick back up again when it comes out on digital and Blu-ray, but whatever. If you're interested to hear about my other upcoming thoughts, be sure to subscribe through the following link, and don't forget to ring that bell icon too, of course. Thanks for watching guys, take care.